So I just want to do a quick little demo of what I'm doing here in the Blender nonlinear animation editor. I've got this little sequence of this dancing robot that I'm doing for Star Atlas, and I'll just play a little bit from the beginning here. You can see it's got a little bit of a hole in there somewhere. Anyway, I just wanted to quickly show the process for adding a new clip. Basically, this is very much like using a video editor. You've got different clips that you can kind of blend together. So I've got this one side steppy thing, and here I've got this other one doing the arm pumping. You can see at this point they're kind of blending together, which is cool. There's a little bit of sliding on the floor, but you know what, I'm not even going to worry about that at this point. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit at the end where I was trying to fill this last little hole. And this looks kind of like crap. This little side step that I got in there. And also to sort of like time these things, what I basically do is I sort of get a little bit ahead here and I play it. And then if it's like off, I'll just slide it forward or back or whatever. Oh shit. Yeah, okay, there we go. There is this particular version of the nonlinear animation thing is a little bit buggy. I think I'm using some version of Blender 292. I found that with that when I actually save this file, it kind of screws up the clips, and so I've been doing this sort of baking it to this version doesn't have it, but I'm sort of baking like parts of the animation so that I don't lose them. And I've also just been keeping the file open while I work on it. I'm trying to get this thing done in a day. So anyway, I just wanted to sort of go through the process both for my memory and also just as a quick demo of kind of my workflow through this whole process. And so I'm going to try to add a new clip here, and I've just been taking these clips off of Mixamo, which is, you know, pretty cool. You can do the auto rigging on Mixamo, which works reasonably well. And you know, for quick and dirty models, and then I took this model into Blender again and sort of weighted it a bit, but it's far from perfect. You can see there's a lot of stretching around the kind of crotch area in particular, certain moves. A little hard to see there. Maybe here you can see it. Nope, that's bad. These are really extreme ones here. Maybe this one here you can see it. Yeah, that's a little bit of stretching around the crotch area. And this is stuff that it's tough to fix with this model because it's sort of a low-res version of a high-res model that's been auto-decimated and tweaked, and really for these legs to move properly, they just need to be built differently. So I mean, I've tried weighting this so that the groin just doesn't stretch, but then the leg parts all crash together and it just doesn't work. It really just needs to be rebuilt so that there's some sort of ball joint or wires or something in there when the legs move. Anyway, that's a different story. So one little shortcut that I found is that once you've kind of rigged your model once in Mixamo and you've downloaded it, you can, if you want to get back to that model again, you don't have to re-rig it. You can just drag it back. You can go upload character, but just drag the same model in, and then it'll recognize that it's rigged, and you don't have to mess with it anymore. I did find that I'm not really able to transfer animation between, like if I have one model and I've got a Mixamo rig on it, and then I've got a different model with a Mixamo rig on it, the animation doesn't really transfer well because it sort of, I guess, adjusts the bone lengths and stuff to fit the model. Even the same model rigged twice, I don't know, didn't seem to work very well. So basically, once you've got your rigged model, then you want all the animations to be downloaded based on that rigged model. So once I've got a little bit of an animation here, and I just was using the Northern Soul floor combo because it has a little spin at the beginning. Where's the spin? Nope, this isn't the one. Crap. It's this one, the soul spin combo. So that little spin there was what I wanted to get. And I tried actually adjusting the frame range. Didn't seem to make any difference. It still downloaded the whole thing. So I'll just show you my process here. So I download this. I don't need the skin on it because I just need the skeleton. But you know what? I think it downloaded the skin anyway. So I'm going to say without skin. I'm going to go download. And just going to cut this out here. And then go to okay, I've been saving these here. So here's my process. I'm just going to call this spin. My file structure is a little bit messed up, but sloppy because I've just been working like nuts on this thing. Anyway, I shouldn't have to do this, but the process that I've found, the pipeline that works, is I need to take these things through Maya first, which is really ridiculous. But I've got one version of the model that is basically just the kind of the A pose, and it doesn't really matter. You can have any version of the model that's got the mixamo skeleton in, and this still seems to work. And what Maya does, which I have had a really hard time getting Blender to do consistently, I've tried doing the same thing in Blender, and I just can't, for whatever reason. I need to have this extra Maya step because the skeletons get messed up. Anyway, this is how I'm doing it now. I've got this extra Maya step where I load the base model, then I import the one that I've just downloaded. It should be this one here. If not, it's the one I had in the oven. Anyway, and then Maya does this great job of actually then just, when you import it, it recognizes, oh, hey, you know, that's the skeleton I've got loaded, and I'm just going to throw this animation on it. So I could basically load, you know, different animation, like say silly dancing here, as long as it was done on the same mixamo skeleton, and then that works fine, and it just basically replaces what was there. So this is really good for sort of getting your individual clips together. Let me just go back and get the spin one again. Okay, and I could trim this down, but I'm not going to bother. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to export it. So really I just needed that one step to kind of remap it onto the base skeleton, just make sure everything's cool. And really it's just because all of the clips I've got have gone through this one step in Maya. If I try to do them directly in Blender, I'm running into some issues for whatever reason. So then I just call it spin Maya, which is, to me, means that I've exported it from Maya. And again, I'm just using FBX format all the way through here. Who knows, maybe that's part of the problem. And then there's an interesting little step here to actually map this together. And so in order to get it into the nonlinear editor, so that I've got a clip that I can work with, I have to go through yet another kind of weird convoluted process. And so the way the nonlinear editor works is you've got all your tracks, but then you've also got sort of your basic animation here that's just like kind of not attached to the nonlinear editor, your main timeline, and it isn't really active if you've got stuff, if you don't have any keyframes in it, it's not really active. It just kind of goes to the nonlinear mix, whatever's in there. So, but if as soon as I go in here and I, like, let's say, pick my armature, whoop, crap, and I'll go over this in a second, more detail. Let's just say I set a keyframe here. Whoa, this is another one of these really quirky freaking things. Okay, here's my thing. Maybe I'll just get it on one screen here to get my timeline here. Okay, so here's my timeline, and you can see I've added like one keyframe there. I just hit S, which is my shortcut key to set a keyframe. So now basically it overrides what was in the NLA editor. It only is playing what I've got sort of in my timeline. which is, you know, kind of cool. But to get my other clip in there, so basically the process is you take your you get animation in the timeline, and then it shows up in here in the NLA editor as just this sort of basically orange thing that represents the animation of the timeline. And then what you do is you kind of transfer it to the NLA editor by hitting this little button, and that then generates a clip. And just make sure you're looking at the beginning of your timeline in here. So here is my tiny little clip that has 1 frame in it, and it's now an NLA clip. So now I could do crazy stuff with it, but I'm just going to delete it. So that's basically what happens there. So now, in order to get this to like bring in my other clip, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just import that other FBX file, spin one, or sorry, sidestep. Oh fuck, spin Maya. Where was it? Put it in a bad folder now. It's probably in here. There it is, spin Maya. Okay, my folder structure is a little messed up. And then it shows up now. See it? Yeah, even though I told it to download without the skeleton, it downloaded with the skeleton. So, you know, hey, that's life. So here's basically my original armature, and then here's the one I just imported, which should have that spin animation on it. It does. I don't know, it almost looks like there's double geometry there. I'm not even going to think about that at the moment. So yeah, so basically, and you can see here that it is showing up in the NLA editor, but what I'm looking at here is not my other animation. It's like, I don't know, a mixture of other stuff. It doesn't, just to be confused, it has to do with, I guess, what's visible or what's selected. No, it's what's visible, I guess. Not quite sure. Yeah, see, if I've got both of them off, then I'm starting to see all this stuff for like the cameras and whatever. But if I've got my original animation on, then I can see my NLA tracks or my original armature visible. If I've just got the new one visible, then I see, again, yeah, that's basically the new one. So I guess I could, you know, transfer this to this NLA thing. I don't know if there's any way to transfer this NLA strip between this armature and my actual armature that I wanted on. I'm not even going to think about doing that right now. There's probably some weird way of doing it. But basically what I want to do is just copy the animation from this armature to the other one. And the way you do that is you select the armature, and then you go into pose mode, and then just make sure, I'm actually just going to go in here and delete all this other, hold on, let's go back. I'm just going to delete all this geometry off this armature so I can only see the skeleton, because this is just the one I'm grabbing the animation off of, right? The spin. So what I'm going to do is pick this and then go into pose mode, select all the bones, and then when I select all the bones, they should highlight here. See, if I don't select the bones, I won't see any keyframes. Well, I guess it depends what your settings are, but generally with my settings here, pick the bones, then I see the keyframes that are on them. If I just pick this bone, I'm just going to see the keyframes on that. So I want to make sure I pick them all. And then these are actually selected by default. It's a little hard to see if you're zoomed out, but they're selected by default. If they weren't, then you just basically need to drag a box around them, or really only the top one, which represents all the keyframes. And so there, basically I've got that entire skeleton selected and all the keyframes selected, and then I'm going to right click. I don't trust Control-C, Control-V in here. Sometimes it's inconsistent whether it works or not. So I'm just going to go copy, and now that that's basically in the copy buffer, I can delete this skeleton. And now I'll get back to my original one, and then to paste it onto this skeleton, here's the weird ass trick, another weird ass trick. So what you need to do is, again, go into pose mode, select all the bones, and theoretically paste it on the thing. But look, it doesn't work. So it won't, you can't actually paste unless you've got keyframes on the skeleton already. And right now, because I'm, like I said, I don't have any keyframes in the main timeline. They're all in the NLA editor. So I have to just basically set a keyframe on all these bones first. And here's the other weird tricky thing. Let's see if this is going to work. Yeah, see, I'm hitting S, which is my button to set a keyframe, and squat is happening. So it's another little quirky thing. You have to actually be hovered over the 3D window. If you're hovered over the timeline, you can't set keyframes. It took me a while to figure that out. So that way I just basically picked all the bones, hover over the 3D editor, and then hit S, which for me is my hotkey to set all the keyframes. Okay, so now I have keyframes in here, some keyframes, and then I just basically move to someplace in the timeline and then go paste, and there you go. There's my spin. And now at this point I can delete this original keyframe because it just whatever. I just needed it, so I had some keyframes there, and I can slide this around, maybe back down to 0-ish, and I've got my spin. And I could, it's got this other little break that's moving there. I could just delete those keyframes if I don't want them, or delete some at the end, or whatever. Again, it doesn't really matter, because all I really care about is this bit at the beginning. So now I can go to my NLA editor, and you can see I've got my sort of timeline-y thing highlighted, and I can just hit my little orange button, and now it transfers all those keyframes that were in the main timeline to the NLA editor, which has a little thing that you can pull out on the side. Where'd it go? Crap, broke it. Oh no, I totally got rid of it, and now I can't get it back. There it is. Okay. Has this little strip on the side that has details about this particular strip. And oh my god, it took me ages to figure out how this works, and it still baffles me. It kind of works theoretically. This is supposed to be where it is in the timeline, but look, it stretches it. It's like I don't know. I guess it makes sense. That's the beginning, that's the end. But it would make much more sense, and maybe there's some way to do this, if it just slid the whole thing around. Like, I don't want to adjust the beginning and the end separately. That's just stupid. I mean, because you've got another place where you can trim the animation, so this just seems redundant to me. But anyway, that's that. I've downloaded like Blender 3 now. I haven't looked at it yet. I'm really hoping that they've made some changes to this NLA editor, because it's pretty good, but there's a few things that are just like, oh my god, what were they thinking? So now I've got this thing, and I'm just gonna, with that selected, I'm just gonna give it a name here that actually sounds like something. So spin. So now I've got this little track, and here comes one more quirk. Oh, and here's a really good tip: is if you want to slide this around, panning in the window, I'm just holding Alt and my first mouse button, and that'll slide it around. And then I use my mouse wheel to just kind of zoom in and out. So Alt and the first mouse button. Oh, so here's a wacky thing. I can't. Oh, now it's letting me do it. You can't drag down like this. It's like playing frickin' Tetris. So if I want to say I want this down on a lower track, no, it won't fit through there. But if I go like here and get it down there, like someone was playing a lot of Tetris when they designed this thing. That makes absolutely no sense to me. It's like this little game you have to play to get your tracks in place. Anyway, so now I've got my spinny spin, and so let's say I don't really, all I really want is the spin part. So I can split the track here. This is another thing that's just like, kind of works. So I right clicked on it, and I go split strips, and I can delete this other half. I mean, what I really expect this to be able to do is like drag the corners, to like make it longer, or to stretch the either to scale it or to do certain things. Just a little more of intuitive workflow with these little clips would be nice, but this is the way it works. And okay, so this side step that I had in here looked awful. Oh, and here's another quirky thing. So because I've got this above it right now, it's kind of overriding it, even though it's not it's not there. There's nothing in that spot. And I think I can change this to, instead of replace, I think if I change it to combine, it'll fix that. It will, but then it doesn't, see, because now it's trying to combine like the stuff at the end. It's a little nonsensy. Maybe there's some fancy, yeah, well, that's not it. So my workflow here is just make sure you got them all stair-stepped nicely, and then it kind of works. Otherwise, it's just you get this if it's yeah, you don't want that. All right, so so there's my side step. I don't want the side step. I like to push things off into the attic. Now forget it. I'm just gonna, I'll keep it in case some want it in the future. Anyway, so here I'll use my little Tetris thing, bring it down, and okay, so there's my spin, and let's just play this. Oh, it's not, might work. Alright, so now I'm just going to kind of slide it around until it sort of makes sense. I've got some other nonsense here. I don't know if this one's going to work. It would be really nice to just be able to mute a clip too, which you can mute a channel. I don't think there's any way to mute a clip. Because I mean, if I was doing video editing, that's my basic workflow, is like hit this and mute it. Okay. Oh, maybe you could turn this off. Does that work? Yeah, I think that might have actually worked. Okay, great. Yeah, that does work. Okay, so that's how you can kind of mute your clip. But you know, there's no. Is there an indication? Oh yeah, I guess there is. Okay, hey, just learned something. Look at that. There's a way to mute clips. Okay, so let's see if I can get this timed in here. Yeah. All right. So basically, what's happening here is what I would want to do is kind of time this so that the spin is where I want it, and then sort of adjust things around it. It's not bad. It looks like it's going to need to be in the middle of something though, or blend into something. But I think the timing of where it is isn't bad. It's just that the beginning and the end aren't quite right. So you can see here it's switching abruptly, which is kind of what you would expect with the way that the clips are layered. It's just going kind of right into that next one. But I can very easily blend those together by just going on the side with my selected clip and kind of adjusting the blend here. The blend in, and you can see there's a little kind of diagonal thingy there that's showing how it's going to blend, and it does a pretty damn good job of blending the animation. Like you see, look at that. I mean, that's actually pretty good. And then just play with it. So the beginning of that is, I'd say, zip it, ship it. But the end, and here's where I've got my audio clip in here. Is this? No, this isn't my audio clip. To get the audio in, I use the video sequencer, and then there's I've got my audio clip. I just dragged it into the video sequencer. There's another thing. It's really hard. I can't figure out how to move the things around, or move this audio clip around. I've used this before, and I thought there was a way to do it, but I couldn't figure it out today. Anyway, so the audio clip just starts at 0, and it's in the video sequencer, and you know, happily it plays along with us, so that's good. Where was I going with that? Oh, just to show you that it's about to end. So I'm right towards the end of what I want. Like basically doing a 30-second loop. And okay, so I just need to come up with some sort of ending there, but I'll stop my video here because you've seen the basic process, and that's pretty much it, you know, both for your documentation and mine. Thanks for watching.